Warriors, thank you for being with us at A Journey Through NYC Religions Television. This is Tony Carnes broadcasting from Rome, Italy. Joining us is Cardinal Michael Czerney, a close collaborator of Pope Francis.
Here at A Journey, we call Pope Francis a eucatastrophe. That is, a good catastrophe. Somebody that comes in from the outside, he's from Argentina, goes into the center, shakes things up, breaks down barriers, and creates a new paradigm for the center. When Pope Francis talks about the geometry of the church, and he starts invoking triangles and polyhedrons, he's talking exactly about this, that he wants to make the church walls porous and make the church approachable, and to leave open doors for those who previously felt excluded. The Cardinal gives us a detailed description of this. Let's hear what he has to say.
Cardinal, thank you. My name is Tony Carnes. I'm from New York with A Journey Through NYC Religions. I wonder how you would respond to the sort of easy observation, not deep, that Francis essentializes the poor as a static reality. I wonder how Francis would respond to the almost essentializing of the poor as a permanent reality, when in fact most of the poor want to be part of the working or lower middle class. And in my city, the working and lower middle class are the most disrupted, the most chased out of the city. How has Francis addressed the working class and the lower middle class and the aspirations of the poor to be a part of those?
Here we have they use this question as an example. Here we have a huge challenge for you as journalists, because there are words which are both sociological and evangelical. While our colleague was asking an ecclesial question, he was using a sociological concept. And in the course of the sentence, we got confused. We started off well and we ended badly. The poor in the Bible, I will not make a huge generalization, the poor in the Bible and in our faith tradition are not a sociological reality. They are not, as you say, fixed or essential, or nor are they intrinsically poor so that they don't want to become, as you say, working class. No, none of that is significantly true. In the Bible, and the Good Samaritan is the best example, this is the definition of the poor, which I think you should also use in your work. The poor is the one who needs me. The poor is the one who needs me. Or if you want to be more plural, the poor are the ones who need me. Me. Starts with me. And so the poor, for those who enjoy philosophy, the poor are more like the horizon. The horizon is always the horizon, but it's never the same. And there's no sociology which can fix the horizon. It's always shifting. And the poor are always shifting. You might have the poorest person for you in the same bed with you or in the next bedroom, and you might have them in Bangladesh or in Bolivia. That's part of your prayer life, your spiritual life, your church life, to discover who are the poor for me at this moment. And the me then becomes an us, because we don't brush off by ourselves. But from New York, I can respond to the poor in Bolivia or Bangladesh with a donation or with and so on and so on. I think you understand. Let's just get away from this fixing, so we have the poor, the middle class, the rich. And that's not false. And there are many things we can say about the poor, the middle class, and the rich. But when you're asking about what Francis is saying, he's talking about you're poor, and you will always have poor, and you will always be called to respond to them, and you will always be challenged because you don't want to.
According to the Cardinal, the Pope Francis has a very elastic definition of the poor. Anybody who says they need you could be called the poor. Rather than debating sociology and theological definitions, I think we want to hear more from the Cardinal on Pope Francis' ideas. The Cardinal is a close collaborator with the Pope, and himself is a deeply compassionate and pretty sharp guy. Let's listen some more.
I'm going to offer you a glossary of 7 images or icons that Francis himself uses to characterize the Church, the whole Church, the mysterious Church. I hope that this glossary or catalogue of images will serve you well, both to grasp key aspects of the Holy Father's teaching about the Church of Vatican, the Church of Vatican II, the Church of today, and how you can better convey it effectively to your audiences. Before setting up images, though, let me begin with a compact, unifying description which sets the stage, which will be read at the end, somehow brings together the 7 different images or icons of the Church that I shall present. So here is the unifying description. During the Synod gathering last October, Pope Francis shared these words, quote, "I like to think about the Church as the faithful people of God, saints and sinners, a people convoked and called as we conform ourselves to Christ, to Him." And Matthew 25 reminds us that we serve Christ by serving those in need. The image of the Church as the people of God, living according to the Gospel, reminds us that we are blessed, now integrates the following 7 touchstones which I will present. Besides being the first Pope from the Americas and the first Jesuit Pope, our current pontiff is the first to choose the name Francis. The catalyst he made known was Cardinal Claudio Nunes of Brazil, who whispered, "Don't forget the poor," at the moment Francis was elected. Those words brought to mind St. Francis of Assisi, advocate for the poor, man of peace, who loves and protects creation. As the conclave came to an end, our new Pope's thoughts continued to center on St. Francis. He is the man who gives us this spirit of peace, the poor man. How I would like a church which is poor and for the poor. By choosing the name of Francis, the man of Assisi, Pope Francis has highlighted the significance of poverty for the Church. And by creating the World Day of the Poor, he has further strengthened this identification. In the words of Pope St. Paul VI, Francis says, "All the poor belong to the Church by evangelical right, and require of us a fundamental option on their behalf. Blessed, therefore, are the open hands that embrace the poor and help them. They are hands that bring hope." This embrace of the poor is not simply a reaching out in charity. A day for the poor might be limited to charitable works and service to the needy, but a day of the poor calls us to encounter solidarity and fraternity. That is to say, for believers, the poor are not a problem. They are a resource from which to draw as we strive to accept and practice in our lives the essence of the Gospel. The Holy Father poignantly reminds us that the Our Father is the prayer of the poor. Our We, the church, are poor.
Cardinal Czerney, the Pope introduced us to his geometry of the church in 2015 during his visit to the United States. Then he contrasted two ideas of globalization. The common idea is that globalization flattens all the differences out, and everybody becomes part of a smooth sphere with no particular national or cultural differences. The Pope said that the Church had a different understanding of globalization as a polyhedron, in which everybody were interconnected, but they kept their distinct characteristics and contributed to each other by having those differences, different ideas and different ways of doing things. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about the Pope's triangles and polyhedrons in understanding the Church.
The inverted pyramid. People often think of societal structures and organizations in terms of vertical hierarchy, a single authority from which power descends and is exercised over all constituents. Francis does not share this all too common image of the Church. In his own words, Jesus founded the Church by setting at her head the Apostolic College, in which the Apostle Peter is the rock, the one who must confirm his brethren in the faith. But in this church, as in an inverted pyramid, the top is located beneath the base. Consequently, those who exercise authority are called ministers, because in the original meaning of the word, they are the least of all, the servants of all. According to this inverted pyramid, or upside-down triangle, ecclesial authority is truly exercised only if it is in service to others, and if it is an expression of humility. Note the consistency of this idea with the principle of subsidiarity in Catholic social teaching, where a higher, or so-called higher, or central organization is at the service of, it is informed by, and is not supposed to dominate the needs of the lower or the frontline components. The polyhedron. Continuing with geometry, the Holy Father uses the image of a polyhedron, which is a three-dimensional shape with multiple flat surfaces. The classical football or soccer, the European one, not the American one. The soccer ball is a polyhedron that combines multiple hexagonal and pentagonal faces. In Fratelli Tutti, the Pope highlights this form or shape. I have frequently called for the growth of a culture of encounter capable of transcending our differences and divisions. This means working to create a many-faceted polyhedron whose different sides form a variegated unity in which the whole is greater than the parts. The image of a polyhedron can represent a society, a church, where differences coexist, complementing, enriching, and reciprocally illuminating one another, even amid disagreements and reservations. Each of us can learn something from others. Francis is speaking here about society as a whole, not the church exclusively. Indeed, he intends to offer to the whole world a vision that will benefit all peoples. The hard lines in society must not become insurmountable barriers to community, fraternity, and social friendship. Thirdly, the family. Pope Francis talks about family with regards to both the church and society at large. If God our Creator is the Father of all, then we are all siblings, The distinctions that exist between us are either created by God for a good purpose, or, if generated by us, they often become divisions that provide no benefit to the common good. The Pope uses the image of family to refer specifically to the Church. This is how he describes God's call of Abraham, our father in faith. This is God's plan. As children of God, as siblings in the faith, as members of the body of Christ, the Church is a family. It is a family that is at the service of the entire human family. Finally, when we refer to the Pope as the Holy Father, this conveys the familiar sense of the Church. Being fatherly is a special virtue of Francis's. He thoroughly embraces his paternal role through his words and his actions. Pope Francis also describes the Church as a field hospital. I see clearly that the things the Church needs most today is the ability to heal wounds and to warm the hearts of the faithful. It needs nearness, proximity. I see the Church as a field hospital during battle. It is useless to ask a seriously injured person if he has high cholesterol or about the level of his blood sugars. First, you have to heal his wounds. Then we can talk about everything else. Heal the wounds. Heal the wounds. These words recognize the injuries experienced by so many. Injuries both delivered and suffered by members and non-members of the Church. Yet the Church also offers respite from those injuries. The beauty of the Church is seen in the response to those who are in pain. The image of a field hospital during a battle is meant to impel the Church into the fray, into the margins, into the imperfect, into even places of great danger, to embrace the wounded. How should this be done? The Church's ministers must be merciful, take responsibility for the people, and accompany them like the Good Samaritan who washes, cleans, and raises up his neighbor. The Pope describes the location of those ministers of healing. They proclaim the gospel on every street corner. They find new roads that are not right in front of the church doors. They descend themselves into their people's night, into the darkness, but without getting lost. The outward mission means actively searching for those who are often hidden from sight in the church and in the world. Homeless, imprisoned, hospitalized, persecuted, but also those in need of mercy, reconciliation, love, community, and so on. How does this field hospital offer healing? By proclaiming salvation in Jesus Christ, by preaching the good news of the kingdom, and by healing every kind of disease and wound. The Church, which includes the clergy, the consecrated, the lay, are all called to go to the sick and attend to their physical and spiritual wounds. The clergy are explicitly reminded to reach the wounded through their homilies and as ministers of mercy, especially in the sacrament of reconciliation. The way in which the Church offers healing is through listening, generosity, charity, and mercy. The image of the field hospital can clash with so much that is grand and glorious, tranquil and celebratory in the Church. With this contrast, the wounded, the marginalized, and those who minister to them can seem separate and distinct from the rest. But the Pope continues to remind the world of people on the peripheries and to make them central in the life and ministry of a church in the field of battle.
When the Pope says embrace realities, he means he's ready for a fight if it's important. He knows the Catholic Church has had controversies, and he knows there are controversies still to come. He says, embrace them. Here comes a commentary on the Pope as a fighter.
For the Church, this principle impels us to put the Word, the Gospel, into practice, to perform works of justice and charity which make that word fruitful. Not to put the Word into practice, not to make it reality, is to build on sand, to remain in the realm of pure ideas, and to end up in a lifeless and unfruitful self-centeredness and Gnosticism. And so, responding to the existential issues of people today, especially the young, listening to the language they speak can lead to a fruitful change which must take place with the help of the Gospel, the Magisterium, and the Church's social teaching. God is everywhere. We have to know how to find Him in order to be able to proclaim Him in the language of each and every culture. Every reality, every language has its own rhythm. Talking about reality can sound intellectual or philosophical, but for Pope Francis, it is a program to be followed. He is not afraid of realities. He has not shied away from comments, interviews, and conversations about controversial topics. For example, he has confronted the corruption of clergy, sexual abuse. He has listened to the experience of Indigenous men and women in the Amazon and in Canada. He offers friendly encouragement to my brother, Father James Martin's ministry with the LGBTQ community. And as journalists, I am sure that you know these and other instances and relate them fully and accurately. What is important to highlight here is that the Pope is teaching us that the Church is not afraid of reality. He is showing us that the Church has courage enough and faith enough to address these topics. He urges us to avoid escapist tactics, and to meet tough realities head-on. Mother. The Holy Father describes the Church as the mother of our faith. He recognizes the Church as a mother with an open heart, always ready to welcome her children home, as the complementary response to going out into the streets. He even tells the clergy that homilies should be like a mother's conversation. Mother's conversation, lovingly instructing her children. Speaking very personally, Francis adds, it is essential to draw near to new forms of poverty and vulnerability, in which we are called to recognize the suffering Christ, even if this appears to bring us no tangible and immediate benefits. I think of the homeless, the addicted, refugees, Indigenous people, the elderly who are increasingly isolated and abandoned, and many others. Migrants present a particular challenge for me, and here's the personal line. Since I am the pastor of a church without frontiers, I am the pastor of a church without frontiers, a church which considers herself mother to all. Of course, the strongest and most consistent feminine image in Catholic theology is Mary, the Mother of Jesus. The Pope gives this motherhood the widest possible connotation. There is a Marian style to the Church's work of evangelization. This interplay of justice and tenderness, of contemplation and concern for others, is what makes the ecclesial community look to Mary as a model of evangelization. We implore her maternal intercession that the church may become a home for many peoples, a mother for all peoples, and that the way may be opened to the birth of a new world. Time and again, Francis underscores the importance of the feminine in the life of the church. The church is slowly examining her many inadequacies in this realm and is working to remedy them. I hope you are finding it useful to think about the church and these 7 images, touchstones or icons of Pope Francis, which characterize the church according to his thinking. Here they are, summarized together. Embracing reality, embracing its own polyhedral diversity. The church must engage everyone, supported by its hierarchy in the style of an inverted pyramid, to go out like a field hospital to every dark and needy corner of this diverse world, and offer its succor to all, especially the poor. In style and substance, it is a family with a universal mother. Only a synodal church can fulfill such a program, a church of all listening to each other so as to journey together. Synodality is the way to live the Holy Father's vision of the church. Pope Francis described the church as the faithful people of God, saints and sinners, a people convoked and called with the power of the Beatitudes and of Matthew 25. Francis clearly thinks that the reality of the church is more important than any idea about it. The church is not something to talk about, but something to do, to live, to share. In line with Vatican II, the Church has a mission. The Church is a mission. The mission is to evangelize, to call to conversion, to call to serve.